All right, we are right on time. Welcome everybody to this live streaming of the GCC Factories requirements. So so I'm just checking on the numbers and the chats. I think we'll proceed because I did say that I'm going to start at 12 o'clock sharp. All right, cool. So I see already people are talking about sound. So I started 5 minutes early so that to get people to, come through and what have you, so that we don't delay with what we are planning to do today. So the reason why we organized this live seminar because there's been like a lot of interest in obtaining the GCC factories. Now, with the interest, then comes this whole like challenges of, well, can I qualify to get the GCC factories? And then also with the interest comes the the misconceptions about GCC factories, especially when it comes to some of the reasons that people provide to say, well, why should you do this GCC factories? So in today's seminar, I'm going to answer the majority of the different questions that people have about the GCC factories. And I'm going to cover what this GCC factories is all about and look at the different requirements and possibly give you some advice on whether you should pursue this GCC factories or not. So the objective of this seminar is that at the end of the seminar, I want you to make a decision to say, well, this is something that is relevant for me, and this is something that I want to pursue as a career choice moving forward. Now, when it comes to GCC factories, there's two parts to this. The first part is getting the Department of Labor acceptance letter to go and actually write the GCC factories exams. So that's the first part. And then there's the second part of it. And the second part of it has to do with preparing and writing and passing the exams so that you can get your certificate of competency. Now, in today's seminar, we are going to focus on part one. So we're not going to talk about part two, which is the preparation part of things. I'll probably do a separate session for that. So I want to cover everything in the next hour, questions and others. And so hopefully by the end of this, you'll have your frequently asked question answered. Now, before we get started, what is the GCC factories? The biggest problem that we face as an organization that I represent, which is Palocraft, is that we get too many people who want to pursue the GCC factories, but they don't understand what it is. Now, some of the preconceptions, especially in the industry, is that the GCC factories is a qualification. So let's start there. It's not a qualification. So what the GCC factories is more of like a license. So if you are an electrician, think of it as a wireman's license equivalent, or if you are when you're driving a car, you need a license to drive a car, so sort of a permission to drive a car. So the GCC factories is basically that license that is given to you to go in to be allowed to supervise machinery in a factory where the sum of the power generated by the machinery in that premises or factory is above 3,000 kilowatts. So I'm not going to go into like the in-depth explanation on like where this GCC factories comes from. What I'll do is in the chats, I will put a link of a YouTube video that I've done, which explains the whole GCC factories and it breaks it down. And the long and short of it is you can trace back the GCC factories to the Constitution of South Africa. So from the Constitution of South Africa, then you will see in that video that it moves from the Constitution of South Africa to the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And then in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, where there's the duties of the employees to the employer. Then in that specific section, one of the requirements there is that the employer needs to provide supervision of machinery. Then you go to section 43 of the OHS Act, and then it talks about the regulations, and there is a provision for a regulation there that relates to the supervision of machinery. And then fast forward, we've got what is called the General Machinery Regulations. Now, in the General Machinery Regulations, you've got Regulation 2.1, which talks about that the employer needs to employ a competent person to supervise the machinery. Now, when people talk about this GMR 2.1, basically they are referring to that Regulation 2.1 in the General Machinery Regulations. So General Machinery Regulations 2.1 says, employer, you need to employ a competent person to supervise this machinery. Now, there's two questions that need to be answered from that statement. The first question is, what does supervising machinery mean? And then the second one is, what is a competent person? So let's deal with the second one, and then we'll come deal with the question of what does supervising machinery mean. So let's deal with what is the definition of this competent person. So if you go to General Machinery Regulation 2.4, then it says that, well, the competency of this person that you need to appoint in terms of 2.1 will depend on the size of your facility. So now, if your facility, if in your facility, the sum of the power generated by binary is less than 1,000 kilowatts, then this competent person that you appoint as your GMR 2.1 can be, number one, an artisan with a trade test and who has a minimum of 2 years experience in supervising the class of machinery that's in your facility. Or that person can have a national diploma, so whether it's national diploma, BTech, or advanced diploma, or the new one is what, BEng Tech, whatever. It's that person, minimum of 2 years experience, and that experience needs to be in maintenance and operation in the class of machinery that they need to supervise. Then number three, then you've got the bachelor's, BEng. So if you've got a bachelor's in mechanical or electrical engineering, and again, a minimum of 2 years experience in maintenance and operation in that class of machinery that they need to supervise. Right, now that's when the sum of the power generated is less than 3,000 kilowatts, and that's the competency that is required from the GMR 2.1 that needs to be appointed. Now, when the what you call the facility, or the sum of the power generated in the facility is above 3,000 kilowatts, then the competency requirements is that the person needs to, number one, either have a bachelor's in mechanical or electrical engineering, plus 2 years experience in maintenance and operation in the class of machinery that they need to supervise. And then that person also needs to have passed the GCC Factories OHS Act exam. All right, so that's the first condition. So the other option is that the person must be a certificated engineer. So a certificated engineer is defined in the Certificate of Competency Regulations. Now, a certificated engineer is a person who qualifies to write the GCC Factories OHS Act and Plant Engineering exam, and then after qualifying and being accepted to write the exams, he or she writes the exams, passes the exams, and gets issued the certificate of competency signed by the chief inspector. Right, so that's the certificated engineer. So now you're probably asking, so now I've painted the picture of like how we are getting to this point of GCC factories. So why the GCC factories? Now, the advantage of the GCC factories, or pursuing to become a certificated engineer, is that you can become a certificated engineer, whether you're an artisan, a technician, or an engineer. And I think that is where the one of the big interests comes in when it comes to this GCC factories, is that, look, I can be a boiler maker working in a factory environment, and I can pursue a career where I become a certificated engineer and get appointed as the engineer in charge in a large facility. And obviously that comes with better pay, bigger responsibilities and so forth, right? So the one thing that I need you to take away from this seminar is that don't pursue the GCC factories on the basis of salary alone, because if you're going to pursue it on the basis of salary, you're going to have a very frustrating journey, and you're not going to enjoy the whole journey. You'll be frustrated, and then when it gets hard, you'll be more frustrated, and you won't value of this GCC factories qualification or certification, right? So remember, it's not a qualification, it's a certification. Right, so I think by now you understand what is this GCC factories. And now the next question now is, should you pursue this GCC factories? So I've already sort of hinted on some of the requirements or the conditions that you need to consider, and that one condition has to do with the qualification. So as I said, that you can get to the GCC factories if you are an artisan, a technician, or you have a bachelor's in mechanical or electrical engineering. Now, for the technician, it also needs to be mechanical or electrical engineering. And for the artisan side, then it needs to be in an acceptable trade. So there's, I think, about 18 or so acceptable trades. I can share a link of all the different trades. But the important thing that I want to communicate at this point is that the first thing that you need to consider if to pursue this GCC factories is the qualification that you have. Then the next thing that you need to consider is the experience, or the type of experience that you have. Then the third thing is to consider the industry that you are in, and you need to, number 4, consider the job function that you are in, and lastly, it's the age. So I wrote an article back, and yeah, so the age one, yes, see, there was a lot of clashback with the age, but I'm hoping that today I'm going to explain and down the age matter. So the qualification, right? Mechanical or electrical engineering qualification. And then for the artisan applicants, you need to have the national N-Diploma N6 in mechanical or electrical. And then for the electrical, it heavy current. Okay, so it's not to say if you have it in light current, you can't pursue the GCC factories. You can still pursue it, but you will be required to do additional subjects or modules that are in the heavy current syllabus. So that's for the national N-Diploma. And then you've got the BTech national diploma. So this is the S levels. If you've got an S level, mechanical, electrical, BTech, advanced diploma, there's the new one now, which is what, BEng Tech, whatever it's called. If you've got any of those, you can also apply, or that's one thing that you need to consider, and it also needs to be mechanical or electrical engineering. So that's the qualification part. Now, when it comes to the qualification, there is the question of subjects, which I'm going to talk about in my next point. So I just want to go through these 5 requirements, and then we will unpack the subjects question, because I know that the subjects is one of the thorny issues when it comes to this GCC journey. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, I've got a chemical engineering qualification, or you've got a foreign qualification. So the great thing about GCC factories, again, is that Department of Labor does accept other qualifications. So other qualifications will be, say you've got a bachelor's degree or even a national diploma in chemical engineering, or even the N6 in chemical engineering, you can be possibly considered, provided that you meet the other requirements that I'm going to talk about, or the other four factors that I'm going to talk about in a few moments. Now, so if you've got chemical, metallurgy, whatever engineering qualification, you can still apply. So you're going to be applying as other qualifications, and then all you do is to submit your application as normal. After submitting your application, then the Department of Labor will then advise on the additional subjects or modules that you need to complete. So there is no way of like right now, if you come to me and say you've got a chemical engineering qualification and what subjects must you do, yeah, I can't answer that question. You need to submit your application, and then the Commission of Examiners then evaluates from there. Now, you've got other qualifications. So if you've got a foreign qualification, so that one is also straightforward. You take your qualification to SACA to be evaluated against a South African qualification. And yeah, and then from there, they will say, well, if it's a mechanical, they will say it's an equivalent to a degree in mechanical engineering in South Africa. And then you use that letter to submit. And yeah, so that's that. Now, let's move on to the next one, which is the experience. Now, when it comes to experience, the number one, there's that minimum of 2 years experience in maintenance and operation in the class of machinery that you are meant to supervise. Okay. Now, there's a different questions now here. What is maintenance and operation experience? So maintenance and operation experience will be, if we look at like the typical duties, will be doing daily inspections, you are doing preventative maintenance, you developing procedures, when there's failures, you're doing root cause analysis, you are doing risk assessments in the factory, you are, what else would be there? So yeah, so you are doing failure investigations, you are doing sizing of different mechanical or electrical components, you are advising on the maintenance strategy or implementing the maintenance strategy. So those are the typical maintenance and operation type of experience. And there is report writing there. There is, okay, I think I've mentioned incident investigation, whether from a technical or from a safety point of view, and so forth. So there's a whole list, and there's an article where I've done like a full breakdown of what what is exactly this experience, and I will be happy to share a link of that specific article where you can sort of use that as a tick box. Now, the other way that we've sort of helped people to identify whether they've got the right experience or not is we've got the experience letter templates on our website, and on the experience letter templates, you will see that we sort of guide you on saying, okay, do you have this type of experience? Then you start listing it that way. But I'll share the links to that. Yeah, so then that's the maintenance and operation experience, and that needs to be 2 years. And then the next keyword is the class of machinery. So you would agree that let's example with maybe a motor. You would agree that the complexity in terms of the design and the maintenance of a, let's say a 100-watt motor and a 10-kilowatt motor are completely different, because a 100-watt motor versus a 10-kilowatt motor will have different components in terms of the heating and the lubrication, how the bearings are positioned, and the load, and the the sizing. So there's a lot of different complexities. So what the regulation is trying to say here is you cannot move from managing the maintenance and operation of a 100 watt motor to a 10 kilowatt motor without being given the opportunity to gain the experience in a 10 kilowatt motor. So this also becomes important when you get your GCC factories, that when you pursue an appointment as a GMR 2.1, don't go and accept an appointment where you do not have experience in the class of machinery that you need to be supervising. Because if anything goes wrong, you cannot use the excuse that I didn't know, or I didn't have that experience, or whatever. So you will be held accountable for whatever goes wrong. Okay, so that's the class of machinery. Now let's go to number 3, which is the industry. So when it comes to the industry, the GCC factories is specifically for premises which are governed by the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Now, if you're working in a mining environment, then in the mining environment, you are governed by the Mine Health and Safety Act. Yes, granted, some mines will have sections where it's the OHS Act, but if you're working in those sections, then in your application, you need to just be very specific that you are working in a mine, but the section that you are in is governed by the Occupational Health and Safety Act. All right, so that's the first element, right? So in terms of the industry that you're in, which is, well, it needs to be a workplace governed by the Occupational Health and Safety Act, number 1. Then number 2, the industry itself, it needs to be like have machinery. It's like engineering intensive, where there's machinery that are operated to produce whatever product or obtain whatever output that business is doing. So let's look at examples. So the most obvious one is FMCG. So if you look at FMCG, there's and I'm not talking like small scale facilities. I'm talking excuse me. I'm talking large scale facilities where there's tens or even hundreds of motors, conveyor belts. You've got stirrers, mixers, washing machines. You've got large HVAC systems, large heating systems, steam generators, and so forth. So yeah, so in an FMCG setup, you will have those type of things. You and like companies, example of companies there will be like your Unilevers, your Tiger brands, and so forth. Then you've got the other like heavy engineering industries. I'm thinking Tongaat Hewlett, for example, because in Tongaat Hewlett is agri-processing, but in that agri-processing, there's a lot of systems or engineering machinery that are being used, mechanical or electrical. And yeah, by of having a lot of those mechanical or electrical machinery, then so that sort of falls also in this industry that is acceptable. You've got what you call your Coca-Colas, which is now your bottling, sort of falls under FMCG, but yeah, so you've got that. You've got your utilities like your Eskom, your rainwater, and then you've got your chemical or gas and oil like your Sasol engine. So all of those like workplaces or industries, they fall within the scope. And they are, and the big thing, as I said, is governed by Occupational Health and Safety Act and required in terms of the general machinery regulations to appoint a GMR 2.1, then that will be the industries that you pursue. And yeah, so then, when it comes again to the experience, remember the class of machinery. So if you're working in a Sasol versus working in a rainwater, you can agree that the class and the type of machineries are not the same. So yeah, another thing I think with the class of machinery is that it relates to type and size. Yeah, so if you don't have specific experience in a type of machinery in a specific industry, don't accept the appointment. But in trying to qualify, then you want to expose yourself with as much machinery in different types and classes. Right. So then number 4 is your job function. So you would agree that I can be working at Sasol, which meets the industry criteria, and I can have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, which meets the qualification criteria. But you find that the specific job function that I'm doing is not relevant or related. So, for example, I could be working at Sasol in the projects department. And in the projects, I'm focusing on capital projects, and the work that I do there, it's mostly governed by, you find, by the construction regulation, and therefore my career path is slightly different because I'm not doing the day-to-day maintenance and operation type of activities. So the job function is also very important. So now you find, again, maybe you are a technician working in a ESCOM, and then, but the type of work that you are doing there, maybe you are a process safety or whatever, but the job function is very important. So the type of job functions that labor is looking at is if you are a maintenance engineer or maintenance technician, or you are a like just a technician or a system engineer. So those are the type of like job function or job titles that you need to look out for. So if you want to pursue this journey, and you don't meet, or you meet maybe the qualification, but you are struggling with experience in industry, then it means that when you start applying for jobs, then you need to start applying for specific jobs with specific job functions, so that you can gain that experience, which is the number 2, in the next 2 years. And then after that, then you will meet the requirements to be accepted to write the exams. Right. So then the fifth and last controversial one is the so let me explain with maybe let me give a context. So you've there's a situation, or I've had plenty of this situation where I'm going to give 2 case studies. There's a person who has the qualification is the national N-Diploma in electrical engineering. So they've got the qualification. Okay, tick. Then they've got but then the issue comes that they are working in, or they've been working in the built environment. So they've been an electrician, so they've got the trade and everything. They've been an electrician for the past 15 to 20 years, but working in built environments. So by built environment, I mean like they're working projects, like installation, construction, and that type of, working environment for the past 15 to 20 years. Now, if you've been working like that for like 15 years or 20 years, then you wake up one day and you're like, I want to do my GCC factories. What that means is you need to then, number one, go back 2 years where you need to go try and get a job in the right industry, in the right job function, for you to gain that minimum 2 years experience that will tick that experience box when you're applying for the GCC factories. Now, on top of then after that, what happens is, okay, fine, say you get the job. Then after you get the job, you get your GCC factories, and then your next frustration will be actually securing a GMR 2.1 position, because when you come to a engine or a Sasol and you say, yeah, I've got the what you call my GCC factories, I'm a certificated engineer, taken, open, with open arms and say, come and join us because you've got the GCC factories. So it doesn't work like that. So the biggest frustration that a lot of people have after getting the GCC factories is securing the GMR 2.1 appointment. And one of the big reasons why they struggle is because you find that they don't have the relevant experience in leading and managing in the role of a 2.1. So you are 15 years, 20 years deep in your career in built environment. You want to switch to maintenance and operation. Recruiters you get your GCC, recruiters just look at you like you are, yeah, you may struggle in this environment, or you don't have the depth of experience, or or. So I'm not saying that it's impossible to actually make it, after spending like 15, 20 years in an unrelevant industry, doing the unrelevant experience in an unrelevant job title. All I'm saying is that you need to really think properly about your career plan, because if it's 20 years, 15 years deep, you need to really, really, really think about your career plan properly, and really, really consider, why do you really want to switch to maintenance and operation and pursue this GMR 2.1 career path, right? So I think that's the context of my age thing. And this then goes to, again, specifically to people who are not working in maintenance and operation, not having the right type of experience, not having working the right type of industry, and not having the right type of qualification, but you are 20 years deep into your career. Don't waste time. Like, look at where you are, and then work from where you are. So the if you are still junior and you are in an irrelevant industry, you have issues with the experience and so forth, and you are 2 years to 5 years deep in your career, there's still a possibility, because you can still be considered for mid-level, even junior positions that can match the salary that you are in currently, right? So I hope that I'm making sense with the age thing. But I think the long and short of the age thing is, it all links back to number one to number four. If you are 40 plus years or 50 years, and you don't meet all of those the four things that I spoke about, then you honestly wasting your time, and you really, really need to reconsider your career path and start working from where you are. So for the graduate engineers, junior engineers who are there, or technicians or artisans, what this means is you need to be very deliberate about your career plan moving forward from now. So I've broken down the 5 key things. All right. So maybe the fifth one, maybe you can sort of disregard if you are a graduate or junior, but focus on the other 4. That whatever you do moving forward, then you need to be pursuing or being in the right industries, doing the right type of work, and gaining the right type of experience, and you will qualify to be accepted for the GCC Factories exams. Sorry. All right, cool. I'll deal with the questions later, or right at the end, once I finish like the main talking points, because I feel like some of the questions I can already see that I've already sort of answered with what I'm talking about, and they are in answer the questions as we proceed. Right. So so now you understand the 5 criteria, and I'll share a link to the article where I speak about these 5 criteria in detail. And I'm hoping that maybe in the article it will make even more sense on why I say what I'm saying. Right. So let's move on to the next one. So remember I said that when it comes to the qualification, there's always this thorny issue of subjects, or the GCC Factories subjects. So let's start with the highest qualification, which is the bachelor's in mechanical or electrical engineering. So there's no subject requirement. So if you've got a bachelor's in mechanical or electrical engineering, you just submit your application, provided, of course, you meet the 2 years minimum years of experience in maintenance and operation in the class of machinery that you are required to supervise. Okay, so it's a 2 years experience plus your bachelor's in mechanical or electrical engineering, and you're off, and you submit. So let's talk about at that level of bachelor's degree. So if you've got a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering or chemical engineering or metallurgy or whatever, and you are in the right industry, gaining the right experience, then you can potentially submit your application for acceptance to write the GCC Factories exams. Now, when you submit your application, the Department of Labor may come back and say, need you to do ABCD additional subjects or modules. All right. So at bachelor's level, the issue of subjects comes in when you've got another degree other than a mechanical or electrical degree. And if you ask me what subjects are they going to ask for, I don't know. So what you need to do is you need to produce your statement of results, and then your degree, and then submit that, and then the commission of examiners will do that evaluation. Now let's go on to the next step. Then the next step is if you've got a national diploma. So these are the S modules. Okay, so if you've got national diploma S modules, or you've got a BTech, or you've got an advanced diploma, or the BEng Tech, mechanical or electrical, Department of Labor does not provide any specific subjects that you need to be doing. So what the labor requirements state is that if you've got those qualifications that I just mentioned, all you need to do is to submit your application to labor, and they will take it from there. So how it used to work is that you would take your qualification and statement of results to VAL for evaluation. VAL, I mean VUT, VAL University of Technology, and then you take it there for evaluation, and then the prof who has now retired will then evaluate your qualification and then say, okay, go do these modules. You go, you do the modules, and then you go submit, and then it's all done. But now that qualification evaluation, Labor is now doing that internally, so they're doing it for themselves. So they one who has the what permission or authority to evaluate anyone's qualification apart from the Department of Labor. So you've got a national diploma, BTech, advanced diploma, BEng Tech. Stop wasting time, submit your application, and then Labor will advise what additional subjects that they want. What the guidelines say, maybe if you want to sort of do a self-evaluation, I've got a blog post where I discuss this self-evaluation. All right, so I'll link to that as well. But the short of it is, the requirement from Labor is that the qualification that you are doing in mechanical or electrical, it needs to have the minimum topics, the minimum plant engineering topics. Okay, and then Labor goes on further and says, okay, well, the minimum topics is safety management, safety and management, which covers issues of safety management, project management. Then there's under safety management also covers like supervision or whatever, and you will see that a lot of the national national diploma qualification have a module related to supervision or management, so that covers that. Then there's the applied thermodynamics, there's the fluid mechanics, electrical technology, strength of metal, and lastly the environment. Okay, now out of all of those different let's call it topics, Labor breaks them down to say cover this, cover that, cover that, cover that. So now what they do then internally is that when you submit your statement of results, then they check your qualification against that tick box. So you can literally go take your qualification and look at that tick box, and then you can sort of preempt what they will say in their response. But I would never advise you to go start doing modules until you get that letter from Labor that says do this specific module. Now, when Labor comes back and they say, okay, do this specific module, but you can see that in your statement of results, you've already have a similar or same module, but just named differently. You can always then respond back to Labor and say, no, this module is covered under this module. It's just that the titles are different, but the contents are the same. And then you just respond like that, and then they can close that matter from there. So, National Diploma, B.Tech, Advanced Diploma, B.Eng Tech. Stop wasting time. If you've got mechanical and electrical engineering in those qualifications, stop wasting time. There's no one out there who's going to evaluate and say, go do these subjects. The only person that can do that is labor. Submit your application. The only people who, from the labor guidelines, where they are very specific on which modules you must complete, is the national N-Diploma applicants. So for the national N-Diploma applicants, there is a whole list. If you're mechanical, these are the minimum subjects that you need to have. If you're electrical, these are the minimum. So going through the whole list, I will again just share a link or the list in the comments to say, well, mechanical, these are all your subjects. Electrical, these are all your subjects. So let's deal with the first confusion when it comes to the national N-Diploma applicants. Confusion number one, there's people who say, well, no, there's 19 subjects required. And then someone says there's 23 subjects that are required. Then I say, no, there's only the 9 minimum subjects that are required. Okay. Now, labor will provide 9 or 10 or 11 minimum subjects. And when they provide those minimum subjects, they provide them for some of them. For example, they'll say you need an N6 in strength of materials. But for you to get N6 strength material, the prerequisite is you must have N5. Okay, but for you to get N5, the prerequisite is you must have N4. All right, so that's how then other platforms or other people will get to this 19 or 23 modules, because they cover even the prerequisites that are required for the higher qualifications. All right, so that's the first confusion. Now let's deal with the next confusion, which is now a recent confusion, which is this engineering drawing. So you would know that Department of Higher Education, or if you did not know, now you know from what I'm going to tell you. So the Department of Higher Education is phasing out N1 to N3, qualification or modules, but they're phasing it out and replacing it with the NCV equivalent of engineering studies. So remember, you might not know, but on the background, so what's happening is the N courses are regarded as the Report 191 modules, and now all they are doing is to say, the N1 to N3 is report 190, then N4 to N6 is report 191, and they're just saying that, look, we are replacing this N1 to N4 report 190 with NCV. So it's not to say that in the future there's not going to be a equivalent module or subject that you can do at N3 drawings level from the NCV side. Right, so if you are panicking about that, don't panic. There will be a engineering drawing module that will cover that. Then the other one with engineering drawing, if you have done engineering drawing at a higher level, a higher NQF level, then it's fine. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be necessarily that N3 engineering drawings. And I'm speaking here specifically to the electrical applicants. So if you do it at the equivalent NQF level or higher, then it's fine. You can then submit and then you meet that requirement. Right, so those are the two things. Now, with the National N-Diploma, again, go to the list. You don't even have to waste any time in submitting whatever. On our website, I'll share the link as well. There's the list to say these are the minimum subjects, and obviously you must go backwards. The other one is the pass mark. So number 3, when it comes to the pass mark, every module that you have done, you must have passed by a minimum of 50%. All right. So this applies to your national N-Diploma applicants as well as your national diploma applicants. Okay. But for the national diploma applicants, it goes without saying, because the pass mark at University of Technology level is 50%. So yeah, so it's probably like a useless inclusion. But if you are in a technicon where the pass mark is 40%, then make sure that you get 50% and above. And then let's come back to the national N-Diploma. Now, if so the other confusion now is no, but I got 45% on N4, but I got, and the minimum required is the N6 strength, and there I got 60%. So why are they rejecting my application? Because every module, including the prerequisites leading up to the minimum that they require, needs to be 50% and above. So if you did not get 50% and above, you need to go and retake that module and get it above 50%. And I mean every module. So whatever permutation that you want to play around with, doesn't matter. Every module you need to go back and make sure that it's above 50%. All right. So yeah, so that's the issue of the subjects from an national N-Diploma. And then for the other qualifications, I think I've already explained it. Submit your application and labor will evaluate. For foreign qualification, you go do the SACA evaluation, and then SACA will give you the South African equivalent, and you use that as your submissions, right? And then, yeah, so the next point then, okay, so that was the issue of subjects. And then the other one was how to complete the GCC Factories DOL application. So the application is very straightforward. We've made it even more easier from a Palucraft point of view. So I will be sharing the links right now after I finish talking. We've got a specific page on our website where you can download the application forms. You can download the different templates that we've designed for you. So there's the different letters that you need to submit, like your letter of sobriety. So we've got a template there. So is you take the template and put it in your company letterhead, and you're good to go. And your letter of experience, again, you take our template, put it in your letterhead, and then follow those guidelines to bullet point your experience, and you're good to go. And then there's the record of experience. Again, in the website, we've like broken it down. I think yeah, going through that right now might be I don't know. I don't think it will be a lot of benefit for us. So I'll share the link to all of those with a detailed step by step on how to do it. And then there's the part 2 of things, which is then preparing and writing for the exam. So that part 2, I think for today, as I said, that we're not going to go through that part 2 in detail, or actually we're not going to cover that today. I wanted to cover this part 1, which is everyone understanding the requirements and what you need to do to be accepted to write the exam. Right, so with that said, I'm just going to go to some of the comments, because I see that there are some questions, or there may be some questions. Just want to see. All right, so there is, we only offer GCC Factories. What about GCC Mines? So GCC Mines, we're still busy with our material, and we'll communicate as soon as we are ready. So this is a question from Takadu. Thank you for that question. Yeah, so just to, yeah, our specialty is GCC Factories, and yeah, so we've been pushed for the past 2 or 3 years to start having our like a GCC Mines equivalent what we're doing. We are, if you go to our website, you will see that we've already started with the what you call the content and some of the tips and what have you. So yeah, in all in good time, all in good time. So the next one, the one is from a LinkedIn user. Okay, there's no name, anonymous. Can a competent person for 3,000 kilowatt look after more than one facility of 3,000, right? So the general machine regulation does not allow you to do that. So if you are appointed for a specific facility, you cannot be appointed for another facility. Or so think about it this way. So you can be in the same premises. Maybe you have different factories. Then yes, you can be a GMR 2.1 appointee for those different what you call facilities within the premises. But you cannot be appointed. Let's use Sasol for example. You cannot be appointed as a GMR 2.1 at Sasol 1 in Sasolburg and Sasol 2 in Secunda at the same time. So you need to separate those those appointments. So they must appoint someone else. But in the same premises, so if you look at again something like Sasol 2, Sasol 3, they've got different production facilities that are happening there. So in Sasol, you find that gas production has its own GMR 2.1. Steam generation has its own 2.1, Rectisol has its own 2.1, and so forth. And then in the premises, then there will be multiple GMR 2.1 appointees. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. I'm already having, all right, so here's another one from Leon. So already having GCC mines. When I then want to attempt obtaining GCC factories, is it true that I only need to pass OHS exam, provided I have the necessary experience? So yeah, so for the GCC mines, so moving from mines to factories, number one, you need to, again, go through that whole list of do you have the experience in the industry that is required. So you find that people from mines, you might be working on motors and pumps, which are the same things that are in a factory environment, but Department of Labor, even the Department of Mineral Resources are very pedantic about the actual workplace that you are working in. So if in your case, for example, you move into a factory environment and then you spend like the 2 years and you meet that requirement, and then and then you apply, and then after applying, you will then be accepted to write the exam. Then once that happens, I just want to double check something. The old requirement was that you write only you write only the OHS, but I just want to double check if, so if you've got the mines and you want to qualify for factories, you reapply for acceptance as candidate, and then you need to prove at least 1 year's appropriate experience in the maintenance of machinery in a factory environment. And then after acceptance, you need to only write and pass the legal knowledge or the OHS Act exam. So once you've passed that OHS exam, and then you submit, and then after submitting, then the you don't have to write the plant engineering exam. Right. So I hope that answers your question. And Leon, can I be a bit controversial when it comes to this question? So when someone asks me like a question like this, I always ask, but why do you want to do GCC factories if you already have GCC mines? In terms of like, and especially like, like you're way advanced in your career and so forth. I honestly do not see why you would want to move to factories. And I always like try to interrogate people on that to say no, but come on, like think about your career path. Why are you doing that, right? With GCC mines, there's a lot of opportunities, high paying and challenging opportunities in the mining environment. And I honestly, I don't see the benefit of trying to move to factories. But yeah, maybe we can engage separately and then you can make me understand why would you wanna go get a GCC Factories if you got a mines. And it goes again with people with GCC Factories, and they say, I know I want to go to do GCC mines. You need to be very critical about why are you doing that, and how does that fit into your whole career plan and your career path. So a lot of the people who sort of move from factories to mines, they'll tell you most of the time it's about the money, that mines, they pay better, so I want to go into mines, but I've never understood the mines to factories, because it's sort of so going backwards, I guess, in terms of from a salary point of view and intensity. All right, so yeah, but Leon, engage me. Let me know why you wanna do GCC Factories. All right, so I think the foreign qualification one. So there's a question from Lukono. Can you please explain more on the foreign qualifications, such as advanced diploma in mechanical engineering from EIT? So I've received a lot of questions before about this EIT. What I can say when it comes to EIT, so for the people who don't know EIT, so EIT is the Engineering Institute of Technology, which is I think on their website they're saying they are a university registered in Australia, something like that, and they're registered with Australian Qualifications Authority. What I can say is that whatever you do, just make sure that the advanced diploma that you are doing is an accredited diploma. If it's from Australia, make sure that it's an accredited advanced diploma from Australia. Then all you will do then is you will once you've made that sure, before you pay your 50 or 60,000 rand, then you'll pursue it. And then after pursuing it, then you'll get your certifications and everything, and then you'll submit to SACA, which is your South African Qualifications Authority, and then from SACA, then they will convert it to a South African equivalent. So there's no guarantee that it will be converted to a NQF level equivalent of an advanced diploma in South Africa. So but I think that before you commit to that financial risk, make sure that you check that it's accredited and that you're not going to have issues. Try to seek conversion from SACA. So I hope that answers your question, Lukono. And I don't know, like it's great to do like a foreign qualification, like from Australia or England or whatever. The prices are very, very steep. So if you're paying from your pocket, do consider supporting your South African institutions. I know that sometimes there might be some inefficiencies, and but I'm confident that there's new entry players who are going to come in the future and provide a good service with that regards. Okay, thank you, Lukolo, for that question. Right. So then there's the question of the vice versa. So now, unfortunately, if you go the other way around, the mineral resources, they want you to write the legal knowledge and the plant engineering, for some reason. So so unfortunately, the reverse then becomes not the same. So don't ask me why. I don't know. Okay, let me see if they've got another question. All right, so so if you've got foreign experience, so here's an anonymous here. What if you have 1 year experience in South Africa, but 8 years experience in foreign? Yes, so the minimum experience, if you have foreign experience in the right industry, in the right, but the only difference is that you acquired that experience I don't know, like maybe like in Ghana or Australia or UK or whatever, then you just need to spend 1 year in South Africa, in obviously the right context and everything, and then after 1 year you can submit your application and they will accept it, no issues. Right. Right. So I will share all the links to the different things that I said I will share the links to. Okay, there was a question about sharing the links, so I'll share the links. All right, so I've got GCC Mines. I want to do GCC Factories. Yeah. So please, Mankwe, please engage me. Drop me a DM or something. Engage me and tell me and convince me why would you want to do GCC Factories if you've got GCC Mines. If you're doing it for vanity purposes, so that like you've got a title, there's written GCC Factories, GCC Mines, PR range, da 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 da. Like it's all these things are time consuming, and like one of the things that I tell some of my mentees is, like it's all good collecting all these qualifications, but one of the key things is the experience. Is right. So always try to push for getting the right type of experience, with the right depth, and so I don't know, but yeah, convince me, DM me and tell me why you want to do that. All right, so there's just a general discussion. I'm just trying to find a question. All right, so here's an interesting question there on YouTube. Thanks, Warren, for the question. I am an artisan, 7 years experience, diploma in mechanical engineering. Can I apply for GCC with my artisan experience, as I do not have 2 years post graduate experience? Okay, so just to be clear, Warren, this is 2 years post. Okay, I'm assuming you've got your trade test as a fitter. So the post qualification experience, after you've got your apprenticeship with a national diploma in, let me just get this question properly, with a diploma in mechanical engineering. Yeah, that's the okay. If I understand your question, that 7 years of experience, I'm not sure whether you got that before you got your qualification, or was the what you call the situation, but let me deal with both scenarios. So what is required is the post qualification experience. So after you've got your N6, so remember, before you even get your N6, you'll get your trade test, or you do your apprenticeship, your trade test, get your N6, and then post that N6, you need that minimum 2 years. All right. So if this 7 years was during your apprenticeship or whatever, then they're not going to count that experience. So it's just a matter of spending another 2 years in industry, and then you submit your application and you sort it. Now, if you're saying the 7 years experience you got after you got your national N6 diploma, then it counts as the experience, right? So yeah, so I'm not sure what's the exact timings of your experience. So that's why I bring it in both scenarios, and then yeah, you can take it from those both scenarios to fit it to your specific scenario. All right, let me see if there's other questions. All right, so here's the interesting one. Takalani, thanks for the question. So this is Takalani on LinkedIn. I'm a contractor serving at dams and pump stations, which I believe qualifies as the factory category. Does my experience count since I'm not appointed directly by the department? Well, yeah, so it's if you're a contractor, okay, so if you are a contractor working in the right industry, or the industry that is considered suitable for this GMR 2.1 appointee, yes, you qualify, provided that your duties as a contractor are within that maintenance and operation of the machinery. Because I do know that there are companies like, for example, the government organization, government entities, where they will appoint a contractor. So, for example, if you look at ESCOM, where they will appoint a what to call a contractor to do maintenance and operations of their banners. And then when you are working for that contractor in that context and gaining that experience, yes, you can qualify. So you don't always have to be appointed or working for the actual user or owner of machinery. So yeah, so if your question is in that context, yes, you can apply. You to be appointed directly by the end user or owner of machinery. So I hope that answers your question. There's a question about pharmaceutical industry. So yeah, so pharmaceutical industry, very similar to FMCG. Have you had any issues with people who have been working in maintenance technician in pharmaceutical? There's plenty of people in pharmaceutical who get accepted to write, provided again that you are working in the right context. So if you are working in the production side of the pharmaceutical where you're doing the maintenance and the operation activities, then yes, you can. So I know a couple of people from Adcock who have been accepted to write the exams, and there's some who have been in our GCC exam preparation programs. So yeah, so the short answer is yes. Let's look at the other one. To supervise 2 premises, you need permission from Department of Labor. Yeah, well then that, so this is a comment from Tiamo. So that will be an exemption. So you will then, if you apply so remember, you apply for an exemption if you want to do something that is outside the regulation or the act. So yeah, there's no harm in asking for an exemption. Yeah, and then that will be a prerogative of the chief inspector to grant you that exemption. Thanks, Tiamo, for that comment. All right, so then they've got another question there, perhaps maybe a controversial one. I don't know. Tabo on LinkedIn, thank you for the question. Is there a particular reason why DOL is not consistent with evaluating applications, specifically on the matter of subjects? People that exact same subject, the same tertiary qualifications are given different responses as I await my response. So yes, Tabo, I agree with you. One of the big reasons why as Palucraft we've stopped saying to people, okay, we evaluate your thing, and then we say, no, do these subjects. They're gonna say you must do these subjects, or no, or respond and say, no, your stuff looks okay, it's fine, submit it, you're gonna get it. Is because of exactly the comment from Tabo that there's no consistency. And sometimes you find that you submit your application, they say that you don't have the module, but you do have the module. It's just that it's named differently from the institution where you've done it. And yes, I agree also with Tabo that I've also seen situations where someone from VUT, University of Technology, they've done exactly the same subjects and everything, but when the response comes back, and then the one they say you are okay, the other they say you're not okay. I don't know, so it's something that I'm hoping that there's someone from labor who's watching this. If there's someone from labor who's watching this, yeah, if they can, maybe let us know like what's going on. So that's the big reason why, if you've ever sent an email to Pilotcraft or myself and you've got a national diploma or advanced diploma or BTech or whatever, I always say, please just submit your application. And after submitting your application, let's then take it from there because of some of the inconsistencies. So I don't know. I cannot speak for labor. All right. Let's see if there's more questions. So the next one is Potsing on LinkedIn. Thank you for the question. All right, so any advice for someone who will be writing in November? Sure. I've got a lot of advice. So, yeah, depending on whether you're writing plant or OHS, I've got lots of advice that I can give you. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff, I think if you check on our last post, we did share like the 10 tips to preparing for the plant. We've shared the tips to preparing to the OHS. Yeah, maybe Potseng also consider joining our boot camp. So we will be having an online boot camp where we unpack more of these advices and the trends and all of that. So yeah, I'll share a link to the boot camp that we'll be having in October. So in October, we'll be having a GCC Factories plant engineering boot camp. So there will be an online one and there will be an in-person one that we'll be doing in Durban and another in-person one that we'll be doing in Joburg, Bryanston. The Durban one will be in Umhlanga. So yeah, I think, yeah, I'll share those links and then just look at those advice that we shared in those links. And yeah, maybe I'll do another like live seminar like this where we unpack the different advices that we provide in the article that I'm going to share. So I'm saying, yeah, be on the lookout. Maybe we'll do another live seminar like this and unpack it, or consider joining our bootcamp. All right. Lakeni for the comment. So Lakeni is saying, well, I like it when you say stop wasting time. I've been procrastinating since 2011. So there's a lot of people. Yeah, sure. You know what? Thanks for that comment, Lakeni, on LinkedIn. Look, man, just do it. Like, you're wasting time. You're wasting time. There's people that will ask you the same question about subjects 3 months ago, 6 months ago. They come back today and then they ask me the same question. I'm like, you would have saved all these 6 months if you just submitted your application, and by now you'd have received like some sort of response and have an action plan moving forward. So, Lakeni, I hope after today you'll be motivated and inspired to just put that application together and submit, and get things rolling. So yeah, so on the comments, I'll share. So all these links, if you go to the Palocraft LinkedIn page, the Palocraft Facebook page, I will share all the links that I'm talking about. I will share them on LinkedIn, Facebook, also on Twitter. So yeah, so if you are in those different platforms, we will share those links so that you can get your journey going. All right. I think it's a general comment from Jeffrey on Facebook. Thank you for the comment. I think we've covered, I think I did a couple of recaps on that. So we'll move on from that question. But thank you, Jeffrey, for the comment. And I hope your question got answered. If not, drop us a DM and then we'll help. And actually, even some of the links that we're going to share will probably answer that question. All right. Right. There's a question again from Jeffrey. So Jeffrey on Facebook, thank you for your second question. So 40 years with all subjects, TVET, but battling to get work related. Any advice? Well, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of strategies on trying to get like getting into the right industries and getting the right type of experience. I've shared quite a bit of those strategies in my previous posts. So if you follow me on LinkedIn or on Twitter, I've shared a number of those tips. But what I can do, Jeffrey, I'll just pen down to do another seminar like this, but talking specifically on so how do we position ourselves to get these engineering related positions where we get the right type of positions. So I will, that is another 2-hour discussion. So I will unpack that in a separate seminar. But meanwhile, whilst you're waiting for that seminar, do consider looking at my older posts that I've done on LinkedIn and on Twitter. But for now, I think let's keep it moving because it's another 2-hour discussion. All right. Right, cool. So here's a nice detailed one from Elof on Facebook. Thank you for the question. Okay, diesel mechanic, FMCG, not exposed to machinery as much. However, I only get it on weekends. How is the 2 years experience calculated in terms of hours exposure? Okay, so the great thing is they they don't calculate it like that to say, well, how much hours have you really spent? So when you submit your application, you will, if you in the past 2 years you've done relevant what you call the relevant task or activities that form as part of the relevant experience, then you submit your application like that. So the only professions or certifications where they ask you that specific question is, for example, if you want to do your PMP, your project management professional, they actually are specific and say, how many hours have you done, have you spent actually managing projects? So yeah, but on the GCC factories, they're not that specific to say, well, in the 2 years, how many hours. So if you've done the work, put your application together, don't waste time, submit. You know what's the worst thing that they can say, Elof, when you submit? They can say no. And after they say no, they're going to tell you why they say no. And then from there, you take it from there, right? So another big time waster from a lot of people is this procrastinating and not looking at it this way. The worst that could happen is they say no. That's the worst that could happen. And after they say no, they want to tell you why they say no. And then you've got a plan of action. Then you can take it from there, you know. So submit your application, Elof. Don't waste any more time. And just to go back to Elof again, so diesel mechanic is an acceptable trade. And then Elof, what you also need is you're going to need your national N-Diploma N6 mechanical, and then yeah, you're good to go. So make sure that you get that, or you can just pursue the S diploma via UNISA, and then yeah, and then from there you can apply the national diploma applicant, and then you don't have to worry about your trade and all of that stuff. Okay. Yeah, actually, what I just said is an interesting point. Going back to this, actually, this was a nice question. So going back to this, if you are an artisan and you've been working for quite a while, or even starting off, do consider your national diploma, the S, like your S module diploma, with like a UNISA or any way where you can do it part-time, because when you submit your application as a S diploma or national diploma applicant, then yes, they will consider that you've worked as an artisan and and you've been doing the right type of work, but then you don't have to then worry about the issue of the minimum subjects. You don't have to worry about the 50% minimum, because obviously you already get it in your national diploma. And yeah, so it just ticks a lot of boxes if you just go on and get that advanced diploma, right? Or higher diploma, it's higher because it's higher than national N6 and diploma in terms of NQF levels. Okay. All right, so then there's another question there. Paul on Facebook, thank you for the question. I currently work at a mine, but I have factory experience as an artisan. Can I still do GCC factories? Yes, you can. Submit your application. As simple as that, you know. So yeah, with post question again, we do get this type of question quite often, and like people waste time, you know, because now you are sitting on an opportunity to actually do this thing but you know, sort of procrastinating and procrastinating. So Mpho, after today, I hope that you will get the courage and go and submit all your documentation and yeah, get this thing over and done with. Thank you for that question. All right. There's another question on Facebook from Tepo. OHS inspector experience. Is OHS inspector experience also relevant for being accepted to sit for the exams? Unfortunately, no, because it's not maintenance and operation experience where you are in the mud and doing the work and so forth. So if you are just doing inspection, that is not going to count, Tepo. So you will need to move into the right sort of context or the right industry, doing the right work, type of work, and yeah, then you may be considered. All right. Okay, I think this one is Warren answering my last question. Yes, so it was just saying, yes, fitter at ArcelorMittal, having done my apprenticeship. So if it's post, yeah, so I think I've answered your question. I did my apprenticeship as a fitter and then worked as an artisan for 7 years, then went to Seaport to do the national diploma. So yeah, so you know, Warren, they will the requirement in the book is that you must have that post qualification experience. But my advice to you, Warren, is submit your application. All right, don't waste time. Don't waste any more time. The worst they can say to you is to say, okay, well, we want you to spend another year or two post your qualification. But you know, if working in the right industry, doing the right type of work, and you've got your post apprenticeship experience, 7 years, submit your application, my brother. I'm assuming it's my brother. All right. All right, 2 more questions. Okay, I'm not understanding this question, so I'm not gonna display it. Is your experience? All right, so there's the last question from Yandisa on YouTube. Thank you, Yandisa, for the question. Right, so is your experience observation working for utilities like municipalities, Transnet, Eskom, etc., is that experience efficiently in line with GCC factories? Well, for Eskom, definitely. If you are in the right job function and doing the right type of work, okay? And in Transnet, again, yes, definitely. In municipalities, yes, definitely. In municipalities, I do know one person who got accepted to write the exams, but because they are working in, they're taking care of the boilers and the mechanical electrical infrastructure for hospitals, and they are in the mud every day, you know, doing those checks and RCAs, incident investigations, you know, writing out procedures and so forth and so forth. So if you're doing the right type of work, then yes, definitely. So in the municipality, if you are like in projects or something like that, no, it is not going to work out. Then even on Transnet, it needs to be in the right sort of context. So Transnet, what you call, I'm thinking TM1, TM1, TM2, excuse me, TM1, TM2, if you're working there in, like in the production side of things, the maintenance and operation, yes, you are. That's a suitable experience. So it is possible. It's just that in municipalities and Transnet, sometimes the depth of the experience is not that deep. Then it might be slightly problematic if you are not in the right what you call premises or locations of Transnet or the municipalities. But if you're in the right places, then definitely. All right, thank you, Yandisa. And that's the last question. All right, cool. So we are on time. I'm happy that we're on time. We scheduled this to be maximum 2 hours. And in my clock, I see we've been online for 1 hour, 30 minutes. And yeah, so yeah, I was gonna finish, or we scheduled to finish at 2, and it's 5 minutes till it's half 1. So I am very, very happy that yeah, that I actually stuck to the time. With that said, I see there's one more question that just came through. Let's see what's that one. Do I qualify to sit for GCC Factories exams if I've only covered 70% of the content? Okay, sorry, this is a question from Bonkosi on YouTube. Thank you, Bonkosi, for the question. Right, Bonkosi, the long and short of it is separate the two things. So you're not, GCC Factories is GCC Factories, GCC Mines is GCC Mines, and the issue of Annexure E is for GCC Mines, and the contexts are different. If you are, the way you're explaining it, you are in the mining context and you are 70% with your Annexure E, and you've got mining experience working in a mine that is governed by the Mine Health and Safety Act, then Department of Labor is not going to accept your experience as relevant experience for the GCC factories. So it goes back to what I said earlier on, that you could be working on a pump as a pump is a pump. So whether it's in a mine or it's in a factory, you can argue that it's the same thing. But remember that when it comes to GCC factories and GCC mines, it's not entirely about the equipment itself, but it's predominantly about the compliance to the Occupational Health and Safety Act in the side of the GCC factories and the Mine Health and Safety Act in the side of the GCC mines. So it's always important to understand the context. So that's why when we started, I started with the context so that you get confused. Separate the two things and then deal with it like that. So Bonkosi, then the question will be from my side is, why do you want to do GCC factories? Why don't you just finish your GCC mines, then pick a career path, stick to your career path, and until you are successful? That's it, right? So I don't know. Drop me a comment, DM me, convince me why are you even considering GCC factories? You're almost there with your GCC mines. Just continue, finish it. You're almost there. Because now you're gonna be busy flip-flopping. You're never gonna get anything done. Finish your GCC mine, get appointed as a 213-1, and then once you get appointed and you are really convinced that this is not your career path, then by all means, then look at something else, but you haven't even finished this career path. You're already, romanticizing another path. So yeah, my advice is just stick to what you're doing, finish it, get it done, and then maybe think about factories later on. Once you've secured the 231, you've done the work, and you feel that nah, it's not for you, then yeah. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. With that said, thank you, ladies and gents, for attending. I will, if you, all the links that I was referring to, we will share all those links on the Palucraft Facebook page and the Palucraft LinkedIn and the Twitter pages. So Palucraft, I'll just spell it there for you. It's actually there on the screen, this side. Let me get there. That's the spelling there. So the camera is going the other way. All right, cool. Yeah, so that's that. So I think I've covered all the questions, and we'll see you in the next section. I hope that you found this session beneficial. And remember, the objective was that at the end of this, you will decide whether to pursue the GCC or not. And yeah, and then any other questions that you had would have been answered, and you will be motivated to go and submit your application and stop procrastinating. Right, so I'll see you in the next event, and if you are joining any of our boot camps, I'll see you in our boot camps. So as I said, we'll be having a GCC Factories exam preparation boot camp in October. The online one, I think it starts on the 17th of October, and then we're going to have an in-person one and an in-person one in Joburg. I will share all the links again. Thank you very much for your time and have a blessed day further.